I'll bet if you're watching this right now that you're not really concerned or worried about your girlfriend or your wife cheating on you. And for those of you guys who are single, you're not necessarily worried about your future girlfriend or wife doing that to you either. I think that most of you guys believe that you know enough about women, or that at least you'll know enough about your romantic partner to know that she's not going to do that to you. And I think most of you guys are confident in picking the right woman and basically aren't concerned about being cheated on. That's probably true for most of you. And with that, you probably believe what you've learned and what you've been told, which is that women cheat generally when they're unhappy. So if you could make a woman happy, then she's not going to cheat on you. That would be a logical conclusion, right? And you figure that for women, it's not like men with women, right? They don't cheat because of the sex. They're out wanting to cheat because of an emotional connection or something that's missing, or a need for validation, or some of those other reasons that women and people have told you that women cheat. And you would be reasonable for you to think that most women have an affair out of unhappiness, and that when it happens, it's not something that they're intentionally trying to do. It's more or less something that they stumble into, right? Well, what if I told you that these are all lies? That these are lies that you've been told, and not just propagated by women, but they're lies that women will tell, but actually guys are the ones propagating the lies. It's men who don't want to believe things about the sexual nature of women that are the ones promoting these lies and these ideas. And that these lies and ideas even filter into the scientific community and create controversy in the scientific community because men simply don't want to believe certain facts about the women that they're dating. And if men who are in the scientific community with all the data and the research ahead of them are inclined to believe things that are untrue about women and their behavior, where does that leave you with your girlfriend, wife, or future relationship prospect? How confident can you be that your woman isn't going to cheat on you when the scientists are getting it wrong? I'm Paul, behavioral and mental performance expert, and today's mindset topic is why women actually cheat on their significant others. Scientists and evolutionary psychologists have been working for some time trying to dial in the motivations behind human beings and our mating behavior, to include why human beings break relationships and why human beings cheat. With all these ongoing debates and research, we've come to two competing theories as to why women specifically might cheat on their mates. And this is, of course, very valuable information for you as a man because you're going to be in relationships with women. So it would behoove you to understand what would cause a relationship to fall apart or what would cause a woman to cheat so that you can do the right things to avoid this from happening to you. So we have a vested interest in wanting to know this stuff. And statistically speaking, most of you listening to me right now have been cheated on before. And statistically speaking, most of you listening to me, unless you've been following my content for a while, don't actually know why women cheat and why that stuff happened. Now, granted, you think you know, and because cheating is traumatic and it creates a lot of emotional distress. I mean, if you've been cheated on, it hurts, and it creates a lot of pain going on inside of you, and you don't want to experience that pain again. So there's a natural tendency to want to protect yourself from wanting that the experience of that pain by protecting your ego and pretending like, okay, I understand women now. I really know what's going on here. I know why women act this way. There's good girls and there's bad girls, and bad girls might be fun sometimes, but I'm gonna pick a good girl who wouldn't do that to me, and who'll love me for who I am, just like my mommy. And that's what a lot of guys do in the dating market, really, is that they're just looking for mommy, or they're looking for a good angel that they can put up on a pedestal and dedicate their lives to, and hopes that she will never violate the relationship contract, right? And that's how most of you, unfortunately, end up approaching your relationships, just statistically speaking, based on what goes on out there. If you're watching me right now, that's what's going on. And so I'm going to challenge you during this video to break away from some of those tendencies and to challenge yourself. Because if you want the woman that you're with to be happy and to be happy with you and to not want to run out and screw another dude and not even be tempted to do that, you have to understand this stuff. You have to understand female nature for what it is, not for what you want it to be. And so, that being said, let's look at what the science shows and where some of this controversy is. So about 25 years ago, the predominant theory about mates like cheating, we'll say, and infidelity was driven by two researchers from New Mexico, University of New Mexico, and Texas A&M University, by the name of Stephen Gangstead and Jeffrey Simpson, and they more or less discovered and wrote about strategic pluralism. Now, what strategic pluralism is basically the theory that, and it can be observed in the animal kingdom, it can be observed in human beings, but it's a theory that when a woman's selecting a mate, she's selecting a mate for a number of different qualities. Some of that is going to be genetic fitness and the ability to create strong and viable offspring and superior offspring. So this is where that genetic hypergamy comes in, where she's wanting to mate upward with the guy who's the best physical specimen and shows the most survivable, dominant, we could say alpha male traits, right? And then she's also wanting to select, though, for resources, provisioning, and a willingness to for a guy to provide for her and the child. So it's good paternal qualities or good dad qualities. And so those two things don't always fit together. The person who's the most genetically fit that this girl can secure might not, well, that this girl can get to sleep with her, I rather should say, might not be the guy that stays with her. And so this means that, she wants to sleep with this guy who's genetically fit, but she needs the guy who can be there for provisioning. If she could find a guy that had all the genetic fitness and all the good dad qualities and was willing to invest in her and her offspring with resources and protection, problem solved. No need for her to cheat within the relationship. She found the guy, right? But most women will not find that guy. That guy is the most women can find a guy who is more genetically fit than what he's willing to invest in her offspring. So most are because guys want to have more of a seed spreading strategy, guys will have sex with multiple people with no investment. And so she can essentially get that guy's seed, basically have sex with the genetically fit guy, and then she can have the offspring and have the paternal quality guy with resources take care of the offspring. And so this led to the slang term, which came across in the red pill circles as the alpha bangs or alpha lays and beta pays. The idea of a beta and an alpha male, the alpha being the genetically fit guy that she wants to sleep with, and the beta male being the guy that she wants to settle down with. And that leads to a lot of controversy and, of course, binary thinking, a lack of nuance in thinking, and like and a lot of men and women. And that's why this theory became unpopular. The theory of strategic pluralism doesn't really present women in a good light necessarily. The idea that she would cuck a man who she's invested into long term to sleep with someone that she's more sexually attracted to, which would lead to stronger, better offspring, right? If she got pregnant from that guy, that idea of being cucked doesn't sit well with most people. All right. Cucking is a part of our mate psychology. It is a part of a woman's mate psychology. And I talk about this in my cucking videos. A woman is always, at least psychologically speaking, cucking a man, whether it's she's cucking everybody else because she's settled down with the guy that she thinks is her best sexual option and better than any other option she could get, or whether or not she's sleeping with or looking to another man outside of the relationship and cucking the guy who's the provider inside of the relationship. Now, we observe strategic pluralism manifesting itself all around culture, but are we just sort of taking the evidence and the things that we see and inserting it into a theory? Are we just sort of looking for things to verify the strategic pluralism theory, or does the strategic pluralism theory actually have merit? And is that what is actually going on? Well, evolutionary psychologists have been battling that out since this theory became a thing because women don't like it. Right? There's an inherent deceptiveness in female mating behavior, and they don't part of that just part of a woman's sensibility and what's going to go on in her subconscious is to not want to reveal the deceptiveness that is going on to men. If she reveals the deceptiveness that women in general are executing in the sexual marketplace, then men will know about it and they won't be susceptible to female deception. And then women don't have the same power that they would have over men. And so women don't like this theory and they don't like the idea that this is going on. And they usually will deny it up and down and across, regardless of whatever you're presenting. And so, because of this controversy, scientists were looking for different solutions that it could possibly be other than this strategic pluralism theory, this idea of having a dualistic mating strategy. And in the search for that, what they came up with was mate switching theory. So the mate switching hypothesis, and I should correct myself, these are not quite theories, they're more or less hypotheses still. They're trying to prove them as theories, but the mate switching hypothesis was introduced by evolutionary psychologist David Buss with a couple of colleagues, Carl Goetz and Daniel Conray Beam. And I think there were some others involved as well, but we can accredit it David Buss with the mate switching theory. He was a promoter or somebody who had written about strategic pluralism, and he had switched. He had been looking for another reason why women might be cheating and something to compete with the unpopular theory of strategic pluralism. And then that led to mate switching theory. Now, David Buss is one of my favorite evolutionary psychologists. That said, well, we'll just get into his theory. Okay. That doesn't mean being an accomplished scientist doesn't mean you're right all the time. We'll just say that. So, mate switching theory is the theory that women are cheating, or when they have infidelity, it's for the purpose of seeking out a better mating option overall. So, this means that there is no dualistic strategy according to mate switching. She is looking for someone that she can replace her current mate with. And so when she ends up sleeping with somebody and fostering that emotional relationship, then she's doing so because she's vetting out for a better relationship. And so if the current relationship she's in ends up not working out, or she ends up liking the person that she's cheating with better, then she can switch to that person and discard the current relationship. Now, I'm not sure why this is more popular among women. I think that cheating is wrong regardless, but I think for some reason the idea of deceiving to get with somebody better just sits well or better with a woman's sensibility. But I guess it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because now we can shift the blame on why she cheated to the guy. In other words, if the guy that she was with was better and had stepped up and was a better partner, then she wouldn't have to seek out a different partner in order to cheat with and be with long term. So basically, we can say under mate switching theory that, the girl is just a victim, of course, of a bad relationship, and that she really is looking to seek out a better relationship. And that's why she's going to cheat and then eventually mate switch. So it kind of, if we want to think about it that way, it allows for us to remove accountability on the woman for her infidelity. Whereas it's a little bit harder to remove that accountability with strategic pluralism, and which is an inherently deceptive mating strategy. We could say that, well, mate switching is only deceptive out of necessity because maybe she's abused, or maybe it's just a bad situation for her. Anyways, we get to feel bad about the woman now for her cheating, which works really well for girls, right? Women hate accountability. That is something we can trace into science as well. There's an inherent lack of accountability and amongst women and how they process things in the sexual marketplace and the dating marketplace. And so we can see that over and over and over again. Mate switching is much more female friendly. So that became, because of the popularity of the psychologists who promoted the theory and some of their reasoning and some of their writings, that became the more popular theory. I would say it became more popular because it was popular among women. What you'll find is that the social narrative attends to, in 2025 at least, want to appeal to female sensibilities. If it doesn't appeal to the woman, then everybody's going to push back and say it's not true. It just goes back to the simple fact that 80% of men don't have any backbone and really are just trying to get women to accept them. So that is what we end up with. It ends up filtering into the scientific world. So now you watching this video, right? So no wonder why you're confused, right? No wonder why you think you know about women and female behavior, but you probably have been lied to, because the social narrative is to lie to you. The social narrative is to allow female deceptive mating behavior to be executed without any checks and balances, because that's what feels more comfortable to most women. And I'm not saying all women, because some women can get into their frontal lobe and use that smart part of their brain to recognize, okay, these are just feelings and drives and things we've evolved into. I don't have to be deceptive as a woman. But I may have, a million brain drives that could drive me to be deceptive, right? And don't worry, guys, you're not like the more honest, of the sexes here. Your chimp brain would cause you to be deceptive as well. It just so happens you would just sleep with multiple women if you were allowed with no checks and balances, right? Just to spread your seed across the land. A male mating strategy is pretty obvious. He wants to secure the best girl he can get, and he wants to have sex with multiple people. I mean, that's pretty obvious, and not necessarily, no one's better here, morally speaking. But we have a tendency in our society to pedestalize women and to make them seem like the moral or better of the sexes, when it's really just not true. Now, with that, I'm going to give you a better understanding than any of these scientists are coming up with. Not because I'm smarter or better than the scientists. I'm not a researcher, but what I am is a human behavior expert, and I coach people. And so by coaching people, I see a lot of anecdotal evidence, but it's at this point thousands and thousands of case studies. Well, hundreds, we'll say. I've definitely coached over 1,000 men, and I've coached some women, and it's been a lot of case studies and seeing the trends of what's going on in the sexual marketplace, what's going on with cheating, and what's actually happening on the ground with people who are in relationships. So I am seeing what, to use a sports analogy, I'm seeing what the athletes are actually doing on the field and what's working, just like a coach would, versus what maybe the scientist would back in the gym or the lab or the exercise science area, right? There's always a disconnect, we'll say, in sports psychology between what happens in the game on the field and what happens in research. And we see the same thing when we're looking at evolutionary psychology and trying to observe mating behavior in human beings. There can be that same disconnect. And so I have the benefit of not having that disconnect that the scientists have because I work with actual people on a regular basis. All right. And so with that, here's the I'm going to present to you some facts. I'm going to present to you a better theory that I hope someday the scientists adopt because what I'm about to tell you is true. Okay. Now, first of all, let's look back at what evidence we have. We have new evidence that kind of blew up the evolutionary psychology world. And I'll read from part of the study, and I can put the link in the chat. Why Women Cheat, Testing Evolutionary Hypothesis for Female Infidelity in a Multinational Sample. All right. And so, reading from the abstract, while scholars largely agree men's infidelity evolved by increasing offspring quantity, right? Men sleeping around, the evolutionary drivers of women's infidelity remain debated. The good genes or dual mating strategy hypothesis posits infidelity allows women to pair the preferred genes of an affair partner with a preferred investment of their primary partner. Okay, the mate switching hypothesis instead argues that infidelity helps women obtain a new mate without a period of deprivation. And that was David Buss in 2017. To test this hypothesis, we conducted pre registered surveys of 254 individuals, 19 countries, 6 different continents who were previously or currently engaged in infidelity. We measured the individual's perception of their primary partners as well as their affair partners across 4 domains: physical attractiveness, personal attractiveness, attractiveness as a co parent, and overall desirability and mate value. We also asked participants to report their motivations for the affair. Consistent with the dual mating strategy, women experienced a stronger physical attraction to their affair partners and stronger parental attraction to their primary partners. Contrary to the mate switching hypothesis, women did not prefer their affair partners overall, parentally or personally. And that study I will put in the chat. It's by someone I follow on Twitter, actually, Mac and Murphy, Caroline Phillips, and Candace Blake. So that's the new research. Okay. What did they find with that research? Well, what they found was that women were not. So if women were doing mate switching, in other words, their cheating was because they're trying to find a better mate to switch to. And it was this sort of noble reason that the guy they're with isn't really showing up and performing and being emotionally supportive and doing all the things that he should be doing as a husband or a partner. And she needs to go seek out a better partner for her long-term, relationship because she's a good girl. If that was true, then the affair partners, the people that they were cheating with, would be more attractive parentally and overall, not just physically. You see, what this shows is that women are cheating with a better physical specimen, the guy who she wants to have sex with more. And she's keeping around the guy who's better overall because he offers more long-term provisioning and more long-term success. And he's a better parental investment, right? They weren't cheating with the guys because see, if they wanted more of a long-term investment, they would be trying to find the guys that weren't just physically more attractive, but they'd be trying to find guys who are also better earners, money wise, better, just better parents potentially, more emotionally, like they're better listeners, and like all the things that women will say a lot of times why they cheated. That would be what it shows. But the data didn't show that. The data showed that they were cheating by and large with guys that were hotter. Okay. So what that points to is that points to the strategic pluralism theory as being true. The reason why scientists had grounds to move away from strategic pluralism was having to do with the ovulatory shift aspect of it. And there's some discrepancies and some inconsistencies in the ovulatory. This is the idea of ovulatory shift, is the idea that women are seeking that, that genetic option during ovulation only, and not during other times of the month. But reality is women will seek out or take an opportunity to sleep with the hot guy at any time of the month in hopes that she can continue to sleep with him, when ovulation comes around next. So, she'll sleep with that guy while she's on her period, not for a one night stand, but for hopefully a multiple night stand leading into when she's back into ovulation again. And of course, none of these things are conscious decisions. They're just mating drives and things that go on instinctually and in the subconscious. And so, what this evidence points to is that, it's like we can replicate this data, okay, and it's been replicated. I think when they start replicating it more, this is going to fly in the face of the community. And by the way, thumbs up to those scientists who had the courage to test this, because a lot of scientists don't want to test these theories because they're not popular with women. And so they don't want to, risk their careers or risk their reputation, risk being seen as not a feminist because they're in academia, risk being defunded, risk, losing potential jobs and things like that, risk not having their research published because of biases and things like that. So these scientists have to be really careful when they do these things. I don't have to be careful. I'm just a coach, right? But they do. And so that's what they run into. But my hat's off to them for having the courage to do this, because it determined what we've known for a while and what's unpopular, which is that women do have a dualistic strategy. They are inherently deceptive in their mating strategy. Now, women listening to this and guys who want to, rescue a girl from her reputation, this is not being negative on women. This is just talking about the reality, okay? And so that's the reality of it. It doesn't mean that she has to make a decision to cheat, but it means that there is this strategy that's going on amongst women that would end up cheating, which is a high percentage of women, right? So it's at least 1 in 5, and some research might say 1 in 4 are actively cheating on their long-term partners, and it's something like 70% have cheated before in their lifetime. All right. So it's cheating and mate switching and cucking is a part of our DNA. That doesn't mean that we have to do it. Okay. You can use your human brain to make good decisions and to steer away from that instinct and lean into other instincts to be successful. But it does mean it's there, and we need to realize it and talk about it. Okay. And because what you've been told is essentially untrue, and I'll get into that and as to why. So this leads into another study now, because we want to look at, okay, why women are cheating. Well, it's because she sees potentially this is now 80% of the time, maybe 75% of the time. I think it was like 77%, right? But we'll see 75 to 80% of the time she's cheating because the hotter guy is who she's cheating with. All right. And it's a research that had been done on looking at stated versus revealed preferences and what women prefer for a mating, for a mating partner, right? And so this was an interesting study because it showed the difference between what women say and what women do, and also for guys as well, right? But for the purpose of this video, let's talk about the difference here, what women say versus what they actually do and what they respond to. And so, when asked, the stated preference of most women for the quality that they wanted the most in a long-term relationship or in a relationship, right, was they wanted loyalty. Okay, so number one was loyalty. So that was their stated preference. And being a good sexual partner, or basically, having a good lover. So good sex, right? Having a good lover, that was like number 12. So sex on a girl's mind when she's selecting for a relationship was Number 12, what didn't even make it to the top 10. Okay. So she wanted loyalty. She wanted that good guy. And sex was like not even in the top 10. Okay. But then when they looked at revealed preferences, which is based on the actual decisions they made and why they stayed with certain guys and why they stayed with certain partners, good lover was number one. So women say loyalty is what they want if asked a question. So if you asked your female friends or girls on the internet or whatever, they're going to tell you they want a loyal type of a guy, chances are. And there's a number of other qualities they'll tell you as well that has nothing to do with sex. But what's going to keep them in that relationship and what's going to make them want to come back for more, what's going to make them want to be there in the first place is sex, is good lover. All right. And that came even above attractiveness. In fact, attractiveness was like, I think it was like number 8. So, like, good lover was number 1, attractiveness was down the line somewhere. So, being good looking isn't even all of it. It's being a good lover, which means the ability to seduce her. That was number 1. So, what can these studies tell us? Well, women cheat and they cheat because they find the guy to be a more attractive lover and they get with guys and what gets her to stay with the guy is the sex. The sexual experience is what's going to matter the most, at least number 1, when she's getting into relationships, which then stands to reason why is she then cheating? She's cheating because she's not, you have to understand when she's cheating, she's not looking at it and going, well, if I get pregnant with the guy who's more genetically fit, then my baby will be like, she's not doing that calculation in her head. This is all stuff that goes on subconsciously and in her instincts and how she responds. That's I think what a lot of scientists lose sight of that fact, even though they know it's true. I think that they forget that this is a response. It's a sexual response. It's not a logical thing. And so women, they're not doing a math problem and figuring out that the guy at work or the guy at the bar that she's going to cheat with is more genetically fit. What she's doing is she's feeling a sexual attraction to a guy and she's escaping her relationship for that guy. Women are looking to cheat with a guy that she wants to bang. She wants to have sex with him. She wants to have a better sexual time with him than what she's having in her relationship. She perceives she will have a better sexual time with this guy because he is a better at seducing her or better at least demonstrating sexually attractive qualities and better than her current guy that she's with. And she's feeling that, and their feelings are to want to sleep with this other guy. Okay. So what does that mean for you? Well, what that means for you, what do you think? What do you think based on this data now that you know it? What do you think is the most important thing then for keeping your relationship together and keeping things going in a good direction in your relationship and not being cheated on? What do you think the number one thing is? Well, let's put it together. Okay. It's not the things she says. All right. It's the things that she's attracted to and the things that the actions show, which is sex. Okay. It's getting pounded the right way. All right. When you are a good lover and you pound her the way that she needs to get pounded, okay. And I'm just using slang. It's not always pounding. I understand that. But when you can be a good lover for her and you're not boring and she doesn't get bored sexually with you and you know how to maintain that sexual attraction because you're a good lover, that is achieving the number one thing that's going to keep her in the relationship and keep her away from cheating. The reason she perceives a genetic option as a better genetic option in the strategic pluralistic theory thing isn't because she's doing a math problem to figure out what the baby's going to look like or something. It's because she's sexually attracted and that's it. Okay. So if you're smashing her and she is sexually satisfied and horny for you all the time, she's not getting horny for other dudes, even if those other dudes have some genetic qualities you don't have. I mean, unless she's somebody who has no ability to pair bond at all, doesn't have emotions for the guy she sleeps with, to include you. All right. That's a small percentage of women, but most women bond to a guy she sleeps with. So she's not going to break that bond, sleep with somebody else when she's being sexually satisfied and she's being sexually, fulfilled in her relationship. So that is the thing. The reason why a girl's going to cheat on you isn't the things you've been told. It's going to be because the sex is not good enough in a relationship. About 80% of the time, she's cheating because she wants to have better sex somewhere else. That is the reality. That's what strategic pluralism would imply. That's what revealed versus stated preferences in a partner would demonstrate, with good lover being number one as revealed preferences. That's what women want. Regardless of what they tell you, they want to get banged out, and they need to get banged out the right way. So now you know. Okay, so what is the thing what's the reason a woman would cheat on you? Well, the reason is because the sex is not being delivered in the relationship the way that she wants, at least at that time, and she's going to be tempted to seek it or get it elsewhere. So the way that you prevent that is by being a good lover. How do you become a good lover? It's sexual psychology and it's seduction. It's not just what you do physically during sex, it's what you're doing to her mentally. So click the link in the description it's my community. You can get into it for free. This is where we talk about things like how to become a better lover, so to speak, and to be number one on her list. That is the minimal requirement for having success with women and having relationship success. If you're not the best sex she's having, she's probably going to seek it somewhere else, or at the very least, she's going to want to. She's certainly going to dream about it, think about it, and when you're not around. And those thoughts are going to consume her and eat up her ability to have a bond with you. And eventually, it'll erode the bond. And most guys end up in sexless marriages because the sex gets boring for her in the relationship. The guy is not good at seducing. And so the juice becomes not worth the squeeze for her. She loses her emotional investment in the guy and her sexual investment in having sex with him. And this opens her up to this strategic pluralism strategy that is part of our DNA. So in order to prevent that, you got to be good at seducing, being a good lover, and that's not going to happen by accident. You probably need training, and that's why I got the community. You can get into it for free, and through other coaching programs and stuff like that, I can get you what you need in terms of sexual psychology. So another thing I do offer in the community is how to cheat proof your relationship. I have an entire course on that, and some of that course is on video, which you get if you are a paid coaching client, but I'll give you the document of cheat proofing your relationship for free in your email, address that you use when you sign up. So I have a newsletter, and you'll get cheat proofing your relationship in several installments for free. Okay? So in that stuff, you're going to learn how to cheat proof your relationship. And in the community, we can boost your understanding and your skills in sexual psychology so that you can have the goods to have the relationships that you want. And don't forget, if you like the video, give me that feedback. Let me know in the comments. Shoot me a like and a subscribe. Thanks again.